Everyone's watching the red heifers, the ceremony rehearsals, the prophecy timeline. But here's what they're missing. The cows are just one piece. Without the other artifacts, without the missing items that disappeared 2,500 years ago, that temple can't function. The priests can't enter, the sacrifices can't begin, and prophecy stays frozen. So where are these items? And why is nobody talking about the frantic search happening right now across 3 continents to find them? August 2025. Tel Shiloh, northern Israel. Archaeologists led by Dr. Scott Stripling uncover something that shouldn't exist. A stone foundation matching exact biblical dimensions. Animal bones by the thousands. All from the right side, just like Leviticus requires. And ceramic pomegranates, the exact symbol woven into the high priest's robe. They believe they've found it. The original tabernacle platform. The place where the Ark of the Covenant sat for 369 years before Solomon ever built his temple. But here's the problem. The Ark isn't there anymore, and neither are the 3 items that were inside it. Everyone knows the Ark held the 10 Commandment tablets. Stone, heavy, carved by God's finger on Mount Sinai. But the book of Hebrews mentions 2 other objects. Aaron's rod that budded, and a golden pot of manna. These aren't decorations, they're requirements. Aaron's rod proved his God-given authority as high priest. When the Israelites questioned Moses' choice, God made Aaron's dead staff sprout leaves, blossom, and produce almonds overnight. That rod was placed in the ark as permanent proof of the priesthood's legitimacy. The golden pot of manna represented God's provision. 1 omer, about 2 quarts, of the bread that fell from heaven for 40 years in the wilderness, preserved supernaturally, never rotting, kept as a memorial. Without these items, how can future priests prove their authority? How can the temple display God's faithfulness? The Temple Institute in Jerusalem has recreated 60 sacred vessels, golden menorahs, incense altars, priestly garments, but they can't recreate Aaron's rod. They can't manufacture manna from heaven. These items either reappear or prophecy has a problem. So where did they go? 2 Maccabees chapter 2 provides one answer. Before Babylon destroyed the first temple in 587 BC, the prophet Jeremiah took the tent of meeting, the ark, and the incense altar to a mountain cave. Then he sealed it. The location, according to the text, will remain unknown until God gathers his people and shows them mercy. That's not mythology. That's documented Jewish history. And it creates a timeline. If the third temple is about to be built, if the gathering has begun, then the revealing should be imminent. But there's another theory. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church claims they have the Ark in Axum, guarded day and night by a single monk who never leaves. No one's allowed to see it. No photographs, no verification. Just faith and tradition going back 3,000 years. Then there's the Lemba people in southern Africa. They claim their ancestors carried the Ark from Jerusalem. DNA studies show many Lemba men carry the Kohanic genetic marker. Their oral history describes a sacred object called the Ngoma Lungundu. It had the power to destroy enemies and was carried by priests. A replica sits in a museum in Zimbabwe. But where's the original? Some believe it's buried beneath the Temple Mount, in secret chambers that haven't been accessed since Rome destroyed the Second Temple. Israeli authorities attempted excavations in 1982, but were stopped by massive protests. The political situation makes digging there impossible, yet prophecy demands these items return. Not for nostalgia, for function. But Aaron's rod and the manna aren't the only missing pieces. There's something else. Something critical that hasn't existed for over 2,000 years. The anointing oil. Exodus chapter 30 gives the recipe. 5 ingredients. Precise measurements. Myrrh, 500 shekels. Cinnamon, 250 shekels. Calamus, 250 shekels. Cassia, 500 shekels. Olive oil, 1 hin. This wasn't perfume. This was the consecration formula, used to anoint the tabernacle, the ark, the altar, and every priest who served. Without it, nothing was holy. Without it, no one could approach God. The recipe came with a warning. Make this for any other purpose, and you'll be cut off from your people. Death penalty. So, when the temple was destroyed, the formula disappeared. The families who knew how to prepare it were scattered. The knowledge was lost. But here's what changed. In the 1990s, researchers began tracking down the original ingredients. Myrrh, relatively easy. Cinnamon, available. Cassia, from the same family as cinnamon, found. But calamus, that one's controversial. Some translations say sweet cane. Others suggest cannabis. The Hebrew word is cannabosum. Linguistic studies in 2020 showed it likely refers to aromatic cane that grew near water in ancient Israel. The Temple Institute claims they've recreated it. They sell it in their gift shop, $64 for a small bottle. But rabbinical authorities won't authorize its use yet, because if you get the formula wrong, you've violated the commandment, and there's no room for error. So they wait, researching, consulting ancient texts, hoping for divine revelation or archaeological discovery that confirms the exact proportions. Because when the temple stands, the first thing that must happen is anointing. The altar, the vessels, the priests, everything. And it all requires this oil. Then there's the incense. 11 ingredients this time. Stacte, onycha, galbanum, frankincense, myrrh, cassia, spikenard, saffron, costus, cinnamon bark, and lye from a specific herb. This incense was burned twice daily, morning and evening, in the holy place, just outside the veil separating the Holy of Holies. The Talmud says the smoke from this incense could be smelled 12 miles away. Pilgrims traveling from Jericho to Jerusalem knew they were close when the fragrance reached them. One family, the house of Avtinas, held the secret of its preparation for generations. They were honored for their discretion. Never did a bride from their family wear perfume outside, lest people think it came from the sacred incense. But they were also shamed for refusing to teach others the formula. When the Second Temple was destroyed, that knowledge died with them. Now, like the anointing oil, researchers are piecing it together from ancient texts, the Mishnah, the Talmud, fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls, even Egyptian temple inscriptions that describe similar compounds. Some ingredients are straightforward. Frankincense from boswellia trees, myrrh from Commiphora species. But others, onycha, for example, it's described as a mollusk shell that was ground and burned. Which species? From what region? The details matter. And here's why this is urgent. The daily sacrifice requires this incense, morning and evening, no exceptions. If the third temple is erected tomorrow, they need this incense today, prepared correctly, consecrated properly, ready to burn. The Temple Institute has gathered samples of all 11 ingredients. They've consulted chemists, botanists, and rabbinical scholars. But like the anointing oil, they won't use it until they're certain. Because getting it wrong isn't just embarrassing, it's blasphemy. But beyond oil and incense, there's a whole ecosystem of sacred objects that must exist. The showbread table needs 12 fresh loaves every Sabbath. Specific wheat, specific baking method, arranged in 2 rows of 6. The old loaves were eaten by priests, but only in the holy place. The formula for this bread was lost. Now it's being recreated from Levitical law and Talmudic commentary. The priestly garments need 12 specific gemstones set in the high priest's breastplate. Each represents one of Israel's tribes: sardius, topaz, carbuncle, emerald, sapphire, diamond, ligure, agate, amethyst, beryl, onyx, jasper. But identifying the exact stones from their Hebrew names? That's archaeological detective work spanning decades. Some are obvious. Sapphire is sapphire. Others? Ligure could be amber, or jacinth, or hessonite garnet depending on which scholar you ask. The Temple Institute commissioned a gemologist to identify and cut each stone based on the best available research. The breastplate is ready. But is it right? Then there are the musical instruments. Harps, lyres, cymbals, silver trumpets. Not modern versions, ancient specifications from the time of David. The Temple Institute rebuilt them. In 2016, their Levitical choir performed in Jerusalem's Old City for the first time in 2,000 years. The sound was recorded. The instruments work. But here's the question nobody's asking. Are these recreations enough? Or does prophecy require the originals? Some rabbis say recreation is acceptable. King Hezekiah destroyed the bronze serpent Moses made because people were worshipping it. That suggests objects can be replaced. Others argue that certain items like the ark, Aaron's rod, and the manna are irreplaceable. They must be found. And that creates tension, because if the irreplaceable items don't surface, does the prophetic timeline stall? Or does God provide a way forward that we haven't considered? 2 Chronicles chapter 5 describes Solomon bringing the ark into the newly built First Temple. The priests carried it. They set it down in the most holy place beneath the cherubim's wings. And then God's glory filled the temple so powerfully that the priests couldn't stand to minister. That same scene must repeat for the third temple to fulfill prophecy. The ark must return. God's presence must descend. But can that happen without the original? Or will God accept what the people have prepared in faith? November 2024. A replica ark was built by 17 volunteers from multiple countries. It took 3.5 years. They followed Torah specifications exactly. Gold-plated acacia wood, carrying poles, mercy seat with 2 cherubim. It was displayed in Jerusalem during Sukkot. Thousands came to see it. Some wept. Others prayed. Many asked the same question. Is this a rehearsal or a substitute? The builders say it's for education, to help people visualize what the original looked like. But others see it as preparation, training wheels for the moment the real ark surfaces. And here's where archaeology and prophecy collide. Because if Jeremiah really did hide the ark, the incense altar, and the tent of meeting in a mountain cave, then someone will eventually find them. Prophecy demands it. Mount Nebo. That's the traditional location, east of the Jordan River, in modern-day Jordan. Moses viewed the promised land from its peak before he died. Jeremiah allegedly climbed that same mountain and found a cave. But centuries of searching have found nothing. Some say it's under Jerusalem, specifically under the Temple Mount. Rabbi Shlomo Goren claimed he found ancient chambers there in 1981. He believed the ark was hidden just meters away, but political and religious tensions shut down his exploration. Others point to Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. The Copper Scroll, one of the Dead Sea documents, lists 64 locations where temple treasures were hidden. It reads like a treasure map, but the locations are coded. Landmarks that made sense 2,000 years ago mean nothing now. Excavations continue. Dr. Stripling at Shiloh, other teams at Mount Nebo, some working in Ethiopia, others analyzing satellite imagery of the Temple Mount's underground chambers. The search isn't slowing down, it's accelerating, because everyone involved knows the same truth. When these items surface, when the ark is photographed, when Aaron's rod is displayed, the world will shift, media will explode, governments will react, and the prophetic clock will lurch forward. So what happens next? The Temple Institute has done its part. Vessels ready, garments sewn, priests trained, red heifers alive. But they're waiting, not for permission from Israel's government, though that matters, not for peace agreements with neighboring nations, though that's necessary. They're waiting for the missing pieces, the irreplaceable artifacts that vanished when Rome burned Jerusalem. Because prophecy isn't just about rebuilding a structure, it's about restoring a system, the entire worship mechanism that connected heaven and earth. And that system requires these artifacts, not representations, not modern equivalents, the originals, or at minimum, divine confirmation that recreations are acceptable. Until then, we watch, we wait, and we ask the question that everyone from rabbis to prophecy students is whispering. Where is the ark? Where is Aaron's rod? Where is the manna? And when they surface, will we recognize what's starting?